So, what is the top self-development book for you? Well, one of Amazon's bestsellers in 2019 has been this book. In fact, it was number 41 on the list. It was called Strength Finder 2.0. Now, trying to find strength, well, you will find it where you need it. But this book has strength, surely, has it not? Well, let's find out. Let's firstly find out where the strength comes from. And it comes from mainly from the author, Tom Roth. Now, this book was written in 2007, believe it or not. And Tom Roth is, or was even, an author and also a researcher. And he spent 2 decades studying how, well, basically human health and well-being can be improved. Not only did he write this particular book, but also 9 other books, and he's had excess sales of 10 million copies. And with that, he's made, well, global appearances all around the world because of being a bestseller. His first book was called, well, How Full Is Your Bucket? Bucket? Yeah, bucket. Now, that, of course, is, I suppose, a piece of imagination that, well, we're wondering, is the glass half empty or glass half full? And of course, a bucket is bigger than a glass. So Tom is talking about how full is your life? How full are parts of your life? How full are parts of, well, your bucket? So this was an instant #1 New York Times bestseller. Then, of course, this triggered a series of books and other things that he helped with children's lives and going around the world and helping out in classrooms and education and so on. Then Strength Finder 2.0 came out. Now, this was the non-fiction top seller in the Amazon range of all time. Now, that's quite a thing to say. So even in fast forward 2019, 12 years after the book being released, it was still in the top 45 books. Now, Tom also had a bestseller which included strengths-based leadership and things like eat, move, sleep, and well-being. And are you fully charged? I mean, are you really fully charged ever? During 13 years in a place called Gallup, Tom was actually the leader of programs, and he also developed Clifton Strength Finder. Now, this has helped over 20 million people to actually uncover talents that I suppose they never really knew were there. And this went on then to become a major thing. And this is where the book Strength Finder 2.0, as you can understand, builds on this type of programming. And it was there that the organization's employee engagement started looking into leadership and well-being, and these practices were adopted worldwide. For many years after then, Tom became a senior scientist with Gallup, and then vice chair of the VHL Career Research Organization. And he's also been a lecturer at the University of Pennsylvania. He also co-founded a publishing company. So after his success with books, and 10 books at that, he became an advisor investor and also had huge success with several startups. He had degrees from the University of Michigan, more so, and of course the University of Pennsylvania, where he lectured. He is an interesting character, you should say, a very successful character. So what about the book then? More specifically, the book comes from his strengths, which is, I suppose, one of them is leadership. So the book asks a major question. Do you have opportunity to do what you best do every day? Now, if we stop and realize that question, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? Let's just take the middle part of that question. What is it that you do best? Does everybody work in the job that they're best skilled at? Does everybody work at the exact thing that they're best at? Even today, I heard on the radio somebody who won a fantastic prize. In all of UK, they became the best pastry chef. But they worked with children, imagine, during the day, and nothing to do with pastry. So the question to them again was, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? And I asked that question to you because that's the question that Tom Ross in his book StrengthsFinder 2.0 asks mainly. So if we're thinking about purchasing it, it was in 2019, 18, believe it or not, dollars on Amazon, which is quite expensive as a Kindle. So that is a quite expensive thing to purchase, a book. But remember, it asks the main question, do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? Now think about it deeply and think about it more so insofar as every moment of every day. And that's the question I would ask. Are you doing what you're best at every moment of every day? Okay, you're sleeping. I'm sure you're pretty good at sleeping. I am too. But I'm talking about in the waking hours, because that's what lends us to have essentially a good night's sleep. So he asks these questions. And for most people, they don't. They don't have these opportunities or chances to be doing what basically they find themselves best at doing every day. It's too often that our natural talents are not harnessed. And from there, the author, Tom Ross, is looking at how we should devote more time to looking at our shortcomings and to develop our strengths. We're often looking at trying to develop and balance ourselves, which is always a very good thing. But if we look at our strengths for a moment, this is what Ross wrote about. It's about developing our strengths and to uncover our talents, because everybody has a talent. We're here for some form of reason. Gallup, that is the company, introduced the first version of a particular online assessment way back in 2001. And this was called StrengthsFinder. So strengths, of course, are going to be the strengths that a person individually has. Now, millions upon millions actually did this type of assessment. And with that, they became successful themselves. Within themselves, they found their strengths as such. So this particular assessment that the StrengthsFinder 2.0 was talking about was the top 5 talents a person could harness from themselves, could get from themselves. Now, in the bestseller StrengthsFinder 2.0, the company unveiled basically that there was a new and improved even version of this popular type of assessment. And there was 34 different themes. People have actually read this book in one sitting and then have used this book and the test within it as a reference for decades into their life. I mean, it's 2007, but remember, it's 2001 since it actually, the tests came into formation. So now we're talking about decades later. There's hundreds of strategies, literally hundreds, for applying and putting into practice the strengths that people find within themselves. And in this book, there's links to the website. And this is about changing the way of a person. Now, some of the ways that essentially this book is looking at changing a person is, number one, to focus on a person's talents and potentials. Not bad, you say. Well, often we are looking at our weaknesses, but this book tells us differently. It says, just forget your weakness for a minute. Let's just look at your talents. And if you don't actually think you have a talent, look at whatever potential you have. If you are an energetic person, that's potential. You might not have a clue about what you want to do in life. But if you have energy, if you're young, if you are at a loose end, that's an opportunity for potential. So it says, focus on your talents and potentials. It asks these questions and gives these opportunities and these tests so that a person can maximize their potential. Secondly, it says, don't waste time on weaknesses. And that's something I've touched upon already. Now, this is Roth's kind of mini philosophy, shall we say, in this book, StrengthsFinder 2.0. Whether or not it actually works for you, well, I suppose life isn't all in the testing and the trying, but also putting it into place within your life, because I can't tell what your life is about. Only you know exactly what your life is about and the areas of your life and how you can avoid these weaknesses and concentrate on the strengths. He basically then goes and talks about find partners with complementary strengths. Now, is he talking about sexual partners or partners in love? Yes, but not exclusively. He's talking about people that perhaps you could match up with regard to business, with regard to any type of interest you have. For example, if you're studying in college, in school, you want to improve, you can find strengths with complementary people that look at your strengths in a different way, but perhaps have complementary strengths to you. So if you're doing, for example, an information technology course and you want to become a web designer, then if you're good at really a lot of the skills that are entailed with web design, but you need somebody that actually just gets that little skill that you're not that great at, perhaps hosting it in a better way or with a better company and they have better knowledge, well then hook up with that person. Be with them as a partner professionally or through the IT or form a company with them. That's what he's talking about. Another way he's talking about through the book Strength Finder 2.0 is, well, work on your strengths. So it's not a stagnant thing. Work on your strengths and you can become more, well, talented and I suppose use your strengths in a better way. Lastly, he says, talent becomes strength with work. So that's kind of just adding to the fourth tip that he gives in Strength Finder 2.0. It's a good book. It's quite expensive, as said, but it's lasted the strength of and the length of time that it's been out. So if you fancy it, go purchase it. If not, really and truly, you got the lowdown right there. There's your summary, there's your review. So if you haven't already liked or subscribed even so, please do, because there's more videos just like this coming up and more interesting things to help you too. If you have, thank you very much for subscribing. Until next time, have a wonderful day.